Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome back to another recommendation slash review video here for one which I was assuming that I was not really the target audience for, that being for the 2023 film, one half of the Barbenheimer duo Barbie, starring Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling. Sure, most people on the planet seem to know who Barbie is, what that toy is, holding it both as a nostalgic feeling for those who grew up with her along similar lines like G.I. Joe, Transformers, My Little Pony, as well as a younger set of fans who are still interested in Barbie as it's still going strong. But how can one make a film about Barbie, a toy line which has had so many iterations over the decades and is marketed mainly towards young girls or family members who grew up with it? Well, the synopsis for this is as follows. Barbie suffers a crisis that leads her to question her world and her existence. So that one's a bit basic, but in a nutshell, yeah, that's the core of it. As the trailer kind of shows us, she's living, Barbie's living in this perfect Barbie world, all the toys and plastic play sets and everything, that all exists. That's what their world is. And with every woman, not everyone, but most of them, named Barbie, and most of the men all being called Ken. Ken, who's just kind of made to sit on the sideline for Barbie. But, slowly there are some changes happening. So our main character, Barbie, is starting to have this existential crisis as she starts to think about death, about her feet turning flat instead of in that permanent high-heeled pose, and even having it pointed out that she started to develop some cellulite. All these things that hadn't really happened. All the perfect Barbie world stuff is starting to get a little bit different for her and starting to fall apart. So she decides to travel to the real world to find the girl who's playing with her and kind of reflecting all those feelings onto her playtime with this doll, which is then, of course, affecting Barbie in her world. Now, tagging along on this trip is Ken, the Ryan Gosling one, who has felt very neglected as his sole purpose. His sole purpose is to get attention from Barbie. He doesn't really have anything else to do. But before we go on, a quick little touch on Ken here. So like Barbie, where we have some played by other actresses such as Issa Rae, who plays President Barbie, as well as Kate McKinnon and Dua Lipa, we have several Kens in this as well, such as Simu Liu from Kim's Convenience and Shang-Chi. And we also have Kingsley Ben-Adir, who was recently in Secret Invasion. And we even have our new Dr. Ncuti Gatwa, who will be taking on a role in Doctor Who, coming just around the corner, playing some of those various Kens. Anyways, now we have both Barbie and Ken in the real world, noticing how different it is from Barbie Land, in that women are not on top and that men have much more power and control by comparison. Of course, this really gets Ken's attention because from, he's used to only existing to fawn over the attention of Barbie. And from Barbie's point of view, this is kind of unsettling and confusing and depressing, seeing that things are very different in this real world and that maybe Barbies aren't really having the effect on women in the real world as she'd hoped that they were. But the meat of the story is kind of how they deal with that realization that while the real world is very unfair at times to women, Barbie Land is also very unfair at times, or all the time, to the Kens, and they're kind of striving for that balance that needs to be addressed, along with what Barbie is in the real world and what she's supposed to represent, since many young girls felt like they had to live up to the physical representation of Barbie, which, she's made out of plastic. It's impossible. Sure, on its surface, it feels like something simple that I'm not really going to be the target audience for, this whole idea of Barbie going into the real world. I never played with Barbies, and even if I did, looking at those previous attempts to turn G.I. Joe into a movie, they didn't really land with me very well. And maybe 2 out of, what are they up to, 27 of those Transformers movies now, didn't really hit with me that well either. So I was wondering, would I even like this film at all? Am I the target audience in any way? And because I know it did a lot of great business, it crossed over $1 billion worldwide, it's making tons of money, I figured, well, maybe I'll give it a shot. Maybe I can find something in it. And I was totally on board with this from within the first scene, showing these girls playing with these dolls a long time ago, what these girls had to play with before Barbie came along. It really plays into and leans into the fact that this is a really absurd idea and to not take any of it too seriously. Even throughout the film, they just gloss over a bunch of stuff. They shuffle a bunch of stuff off. Any questions you might have, exactly what and where is Barbie Land? How does somebody get to and from it? Or even poking at fun at the fact that they don't have anything going on downstairs. The comedy works in every scene in this, and everybody brought it, including Ryan Gosling, who, from what I'd seen him in previously, I always thought his acting was a bit muted and subdued. He really brought something to the screen that I hadn't seen from him before. And also, along with all of that, along with all that energy, the Kens played by Simu Liu and Shuri Gatwa, that energy kind of really livened things up as well. They put a lot of comedy in that. And I'm still of the opinion that if you add Kate McKinnon into any film, she's gonna stand out. I mean, just look at Office Christmas Party or even that Ghostbusters remake. I really feel like she was always a standout among the cast, as she is in this one as well. And let's not forget Will Ferrell, who I didn't even realize was in this, who's playing, he's pretty much playing Will Ferrell, but it works with this being a comedy. He fit right in. It was a great addition to the cast. Okay, so it's weird and original of a concept to try to bring to the screen with some great comedy. And what else is in this? Well, the special effects and set design. A lot of times it seems like special effects are talked about, regarding how realistic they are or how much they failed at trying to be realistic. But in this film, it was a different mix of special effects that were used because they're creating this Barbie land, but they're having to do it in a way where it doesn't look like the actors are all separate from it. It looks like they could actually live in that world, no matter how absurd it all looks, with being this pink plasticky looking playset world of sorts that they live in. It never looked like they were separate from it or standing in front of a green screen. Everything just really came together well. But the most surprising thing about this film was the heart beneath it all. Especially coming from the character played by America Ferrera, who, I mainly know from Superstore, which I'd recently rewatched that entire show. But, she's one of our real world characters. Within that, they both are able to poke fun of the patriarchy while also calling attention to both the changes that have happened that have been positive over the decades, as well as a lot of work that's still left to be done. And none of this comes across as preachy or out of place or like they're really just tagging something on. It just worked perfectly among all the craziness that they had going on in this comedy. So hands down, I was very surprised by this film. It still makes no sense that it even worked. When you look at this film, trying to get all these parts in place and moving must have been so tricky to execute. But the result was more than worth the hype and more than worth checking out. And speaking of checking out, thanks for checking out this latest video of mine. Barbie is currently available on paid rental, but it should be hitting some other streaming services soon. And I hear that there's going to be some sort of a re-release or something happening in the theater where it's going to be in the theaters a bit longer to check out. So anyways, thanks for coming by and for sticking around to the end. So sound off in the comments if you've seen this. What did you think about that? And if you're not already subscribed, please subscribe and hit that little bell icon. And I will see you in the next one.